Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's good to see so many of our members participating. This is our TCC History Night. It's the first one that we've had, and I think you'll have a wonderful time. All of you know the gentleman next to me, Chris Myrvold. Chris has spent hours and hours and days putting this presentation together for you, both audio, visual, and with some special guest speakers on top of that. So I think you'll have a great time. I know I'm looking forward to it. History is one of Chris's passions. So this was a labor of love, and I think you'll see it in this work. Before I start, I just want to recognize one person who's not on the speaker agenda tonight, and that's Dan Hickson, who's back there in the back. Dan, wave your hand. Dan is a very important part of our club. He's done a lot of work here in the club, and he's really important for us in the standpoint of our architecture. With that, I'm going to welcome Chris. There you go, Dan. With that, I'm going to welcome Chris and turn the agenda over to him.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so I'm going to just do a quick overview of the event. So I put a lot of work in resourcing material and doing lots of writing, photos, and all sorts of content. And especially for today's event, I have those of you familiar with Golf Genius, GGID, TCC History, and just log on to that and you'll find all sorts of stuff. So that's a little gift for everybody here, and we'll eventually let the rest of the membership know, but it's definitely a lot of stuff in there. So yeah. And then so what we're going to do is we have a few videos set up. Harbor does our videos, and they're super talented what they do, and be able to create some really cool video content for us. So, and then we have, of course, a lot of great speakers, and we got Cam Azari, Klenz, John Foltz, and Roscoe Nelson. So they're going to be up speaking today. We're going to do a little bit of an intermission in between. Go to the bathroom, have a drink, just kind of walk around a little bit, and then we'll get to the second half. And then once we're done, we're going to have a little bit of desserts for everybody, some coffee, and myself, anybody else who want to talk to you afterwards, if you have questions, or just want to say thank you. I love having thank yous. So, okay. So on to what we are attempting to do, which is, when I got here, I kind of asked myself, Tualatin Country Club, what does that mean? So I want all of you not to meditate, but just kind of think about what does Tualatin Country Club represent to you? What do you think about the name Tualatin? And some of you have been members for a long time, some just a short while. So for me, I'm like literal. I go, what does Tualatin actually literally mean in the language of Atfalati, which is the Tualatin tribe? And so what it means is we don't know. The last person that spoke is 100, he was at early 1900s, passed away. So we have no idea, but there's a lot of speculation. Slow, lazy river, forked river, we the people, flatland. So it's a lot of different people, different opinions on it. I would just say on my research that the name Tualatin really defines the area that you're living in and the features, the geological features that you are next to. So how we got from Atfalati, emphasis on fa, to Tualatin is early fur traders. They had Chinook jargon language that they were able to communicate, and so they had maps, in the early maps, to find the area that we're in as Tualatin or Tualati, a lot of different versions, until about 1913 when the people in this community needed a bar. And so they said, well, the only way to get a bar is if we have a town. So they have the name of town, and they did Tualatin, it's the river. So, in summary, I just wanted to kind of get everybody's mind to what Tualatin means from just a kind of broad perspective. For me, it just means a connection of a tribe and the land. So that's my interpretation. Okay, so now we're going to do a little video presentation. And here we go.
In the spring of 1912, the inception of Tualatin Country Club was not merely the establishment of a new golf course, but the manifestation of a pioneering vision for social and sporting excellence in the Pacific Northwest. Conceived by visionaries including Rabbi Jonah Wise, Governor Julius Meyer, and Roscoe Nelson III's grandfather. Roscoe Nelson and Tualatin are synonymous, as the Nelson name is the only one that has been connected to the club continually since its inception, marking 3 generations of steadfast dedication and involvement. This collective foresight, significantly influenced by experiences from a Jewish club in Richmond, Virginia, aimed to create not just a premier private club, but a sanctuary for community, inclusivity, and fellowship. The club, which stands as the oldest Jewish country club west of the Mississippi and a beacon of heritage and community west of the Rockies, was founded on a journey to scout land that offered ideal natural contours for a challenging golf course, while embracing Oregon's breathtaking landscape. The selection of renowned architects for both the course and the rustic yet elegant clubhouse underscored a commitment to quality, sustainability, and the creation of a haven for golfers and a gathering place for the community. Overcoming exclusionary societal norms of the time, Tualatin set a precedent by offering memberships to Jewish residents of Portland, building its spirit on openness, equality, and a belief in a space where everyone, irrespective of background, could unite over their love for the game. This foundational spirit of inclusivity, along with the club's early spirit of innovation and the continuous legacy of the Nelson family, have defined Tualatin's character and legacy, setting a high standard for private clubs in the region and enduring for generations.
Pretty awesome, huh? Yes, you got some claps for sure. So we're going to go a little bit further to the history of the geology of Tualatin Country Club. So, Scott Burns, golfer, friend of David Weiner, who's here. He's a PSU professor, PhD, and he is the man when it comes to understanding the Ice Age floods, and specifically Tualatin. And there's actually a thing called Tualatin Ice Age Foundation, and there's an Ice Age Floods National Geological Trail that is in the works. And anybody that enjoys history and geology, it's a wonderful thing to get a chance to look through. Some pretty amazing stuff. So I'm just going to give you a couple little key things within what I sourced. So imagine 500 square miles of water being dumped in 2 days. That's what came down Missoula. It's hard to understand that, but let's think about the energy equivalency. Take the largest nuclear bomb that's ever been detonated and times that by 90. And that's the amount of water that was being disseminated. So it's just unbelievable. So as you can see here, 400 feet high. That's where the water came into port. Made a huge impact into our area. So those of you that lived in this area, you have seen, maybe you've heard, there used to be a gravel pit over by Bridgeport Mall. I used to fish there when I was a little boy. That's all dumped from the Missoula Floods, the rocks. And then a little further downstream, as the water carves through Lake Oswego, it deposited lovely gold. It's like a golf course designer's dream, sand. So think about what sand is for golf. Imagine abandoned dunes, but on all clay surface. that would not be much fun. So sand is, it's awesome. So that's what we get when a Missoula flood decides to dump a bunch of water and then it recedes. So I'm going to show you some pictures here. So here we go. There's the water going right through. You can see where we're going. That's a big chunk of water going right through Lake Oswego. And here we go. You can see a little closer where we're at. And go a little further. You can kind of see where the direction of the water goes. There's our train tracks. Get an idea of where we're at. And then the water comes in, comes back out. So most of the water side we go up to Oregon City. So that's where you see the Willamette Falls. Second largest falls and behind Niagara. And then there we are. So when the water recedes, it creates a kind of a vertical drop. So when you're up on 9 T-bots and you look down, that is that water that receded that created that channel there. And then as the water recedes, it creates ripples. So of course as golfers, we don't like all flat. We want to see a little bit of challenge on the golf course, a little uneven lies, because obviously the game isn't hard enough. So anyways, and then the other nice thing about sand is trees. So Doug firs love sand because they can get their roots way down deep. And I think about the community mindset of this club and how it goes deep and then it stands tall and it stays for a very long time. So a lot of these trees were here long before any settlers came, hundreds of years. So it kind of defines this golf course. The sand, the trees, the rolling landscape, the beautiful river. There's just nothing like it. The name Tualatin is unique. There's not another Tualatin in the world. We're not, Riverside, no offense, or Royal Oaks. There's a lot of names that have been passed around to different golf courses. Tualatin is unique. And this is an example of why it's so unique. 90 times powerful than the biggest nuclear bomb. That's what caused all this. So, now we're going to start learning a little bit about the tribes. Amazing stories of Aaron Meyer having a farmer help him out, giving him $3,000 to build his business up. And the sweets that sold to the Jews that started this club, they gave him a pretty good deal. So it's really working together, but it's also a lot of charity. And I want everybody to kind of resonate this deep into your heart and soul as you leave tonight, as to what comes through is this spirit, which is to, be honoring your fellow man and to kind of show that love. So that is the essence of what this club stands for, and it's through the Jewish pioneers. And so we have some amazing people that were examples of that, including Roscoe Nelson. And Roscoe came from Richmond. He was a founder of the club, and he was the brains behind the operation. I can't say this enough. As much research as I've done, it is without a doubt the single most important and influential person for this club to exist was Roscoe Nelson. Without a doubt. His time at Richmond, this was the first Jewish club in the West, had to come from somewhere, and that was Roscoe. Roscoe put his heart and soul into this place. I mean, some of you will see that paperwork there. There's a whole nother set of those papers in the Oregon Historical Society building, which I went in there, and it was amazing to see just the amount of effort and work that came into this place right away. So we really have a lot to say. Thanks to Roscoe. And just kind of finish up on the Jewish side. So Concordia Club was a men's-only club, social club, and in that club was a structure of committees, the house committee, by the way, which still exists today. It's a thread from the Concordia Club. You have the house committee, you have all sorts of committees, there's a board, there's a president. All of that existed in the Concordia Club, and it transferred into now what we call Tualatin Country Club, and for 100 and some years, it's stayed the same. So that continuity of leadership and structure, to me, is why we're all here. Beautiful carpet, beautiful room, right? This amazing, beautiful golf course. So that is a testament to a lineage. So I spent time with Roscoe, and I understand just culture. It's very much about respecting the past and all the people that have helped us to get to where we're at today. So there's just so much to be thankful for. And I'm going to say it again, Roscoe. So, all right, so on to the next. We've got the golf courses, everybody's favorite thing to do. That's why most of us like the game of golf. And
With the increasing popularity of golf in the early 20th century, Tualatin Country Club swiftly adapted its offerings to cater to the growing demand, marking a significant pivot toward becoming a golf-centric institution. This era saw strategic enhancements to the golf course, spearheaded by the visionary leadership of Rabbi Jonah Wise on the Greens Committee, and the introduction of Oregon's first bent grass greens, a revolutionary move at the time, which set a new standard for golf course quality in the region. The club's commitment to excellence and innovation was recognized in 2022 when it was honored as Oregon's Golf Facility of the Year, a reflection not just of the club's superior facilities, but also its role in nurturing the sports development in Oregon through hosting prestigious tournaments and fostering a vibrant golfing community. The strategic course renovations underscored Tualatin's dedication to maintaining a challenging yet accessible course for golfers of all levels, ensuring its status as a premier golfing destination. This rich tapestry of Tualatin Country Club's history is intricately woven with the broader narrative of golf in Oregon, highlighted by the contributions of Ed Neustadter in the creation of the Oregon Golf Association, and the legacy of Bob McReynolds, who dedicated his life to chronicling the evolution of golf in the region. Their efforts have left an indelible mark on Oregon's golf landscape, reinforcing Tualatin's position as a cornerstone of golfing excellence and heritage in the Pacific Northwest.
all right, so we had some golfing pioneers, and this course really set precedence, being the fourth oldest course in Oregon and second oldest in the Portland area. And we have to give a lot of effort and praise to the Scottish contingency that came from Scotland, and they were the ones that designed the golf courses, specifically George Scotty Jr. He was the first superintendent, designed 33 golf courses, including Astoria Country Club and Orchard Hills and lots of different golf courses. And he was an amazing figure for the Portland area. William Jr. was the first, his uncle was the first superintendent of Waverly. And then John Jr. was our first golf pro here. He won the Northwest Open. He became the first GM of Portland Golf Club. So the juniors helped design the very first 9 holes here. 1913. Golf started to be played. That is our current background. And now we're on to Egan. So Chandler Egan is the most unheralded, best designer, I think, in the history of the game. As an amateur, he was an unbelievable player. He was Bobby Jones before Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones patterned his behavior, how he thought about the game, through the lens of Chandler. Chandler was such a sportsmanship, just always wanted to follow the rules. And there's a lot of great stories with Chandler, but I just want to say that he made a double impact in golf, especially in Oregon. Many golf courses have had his name associated with it. So we're really grateful for him, and we're going to go to the Oregon State Championship, 1922. That was kind of a watershed moment for Tualatin Country Club. At that time, it was just turning into an 18-hole course. Chandler Egan had his name attached to it. bent grass greens, and being a Jewish club didn't matter. They didn't care about that. They cared, is this a good golf course? And it was. And so they decided to host Oregon State Championship. So we are now celebrating 100 years of the OGA in 1924. That was established by Ed Neustadler. Ed, Tualatin member, was the very first secretary of the OGA, and it was his idea to make the OGA happen. And so the connection with Tualatin and the OGA is extremely strong, and that is why I want to have Cam Azari to come up here, please. So Cam, 21 years in the executive committee of the OGA. He is a past president. He is also the tournament chair. Oregon Golf Association is going to have their Oregon AM next year in 2025. And Cam is also a good player. He played 3 Hudson's Cups. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and let Cam speak here for a little bit.
Thanks, Chris. For one clarification, I used to be a good player. First of all, I want to say something really quick. I really appreciate what Chris has done here. I'm a member of Tualatin Country Club, a very short period of time, 5 years. And the earnestness with which Chris has put this together is really impressive. I think it's really fun. When I was a public course player forever. And when I quit playing golf for a while, actually, and when my wife encouraged me to start playing again, looking for clubs to play, it really, I mean, this is the truth. The history of the Oregon Golf Association, the history of Tualatin Country Club to the OGA played a factor in me choosing this club, to join this club. I'm here tonight. I know I see some of my friends who I play golf. It's like, what the hell is Cam up here? I didn't know he was, but I've been on the OGA for 21 years. I'm on the executive committee. And as Chris just showed a slide a minute ago, the OGA would not exist without the contributions of this country club. Maybe it would have happened eventually, but it would not have existed. I think everybody's familiar with the OGA. The OGA was founded in 1924, primarily founded to put on the Oregon Amateur for several years. That's all it did. But it's grown into the organization that it is, promoting golf in the state of Oregon, doing all your handicapping, rating all your golf courses, etc. I'm just going to say a couple things really quick about Tualatin. Tualatin, in addition to this early period of time when it helped found the OGA, has been a continued contributor to the game of golf in the state of Oregon. We're going to talk about a few of the folks that have contributed, but I want to call out a couple people. I know David Weiner's here. Sorry, David. David was a member of the executive committee for years. You may not know that, representing Tualatin Country Club. He still volunteers as an attorney. Over the years that I've been on the executive committee, when we've needed to help have a meeting site or have a meeting, Tualatin always raises their hand. They're always available to do that. And that's, I got to tell you, there's some other clubs that haven't always been as willing to do that, to host a volunteer day and have all the OGA volunteers come and play. This course has always stepped up, and that's been incredibly important. And the final thing about the course, there have been 7 Oregon Amateur Championships held at this golf course. And I think when you think about golf courses that hold championships, you think, did it really properly identify the best player? And when you look at the list of people that have won the Oregon Amateur here, it's Kent Myers, it's Don Krieger, Walker Cup. You go way back. It's Dr. Willing. I don't know his first name. It's always Dr. Willing in the records. It's Frank Dahl, who, fun fact, I got to meet when I had the good fortune of winning the Portland City Championship about 30 years ago. And Mr. Dahl was in his 90s. I got to meet him. He was a gentleman, a very nice guy. Won the Oregon Am here in the 20s. On the women's side, Marcia Fisher, Joan Edwards Powell. This course has consistently identified the best player. And that's a real credit to the quality of the golf course. So that's all I have to say, Chris. Just on behalf of the OGA, I think this is really fun. I'm not my Tualatin member. I got my OGA jacket on. And the CEO of the OGA had been here. You're stuck with me. He has on vacation this week. But I just want to say, Chris, thanks for doing this. And I really appreciate the club and what it's meant to the OGA.
All right. And Cam is actually does speaking for his living almost. So Now I gotta follow that. All right, so part two, we have golf pioneers. So Tualatin Country Club could never existed if it wasn't for hard-working people. And that would include Walter Eames. Eames was an incredible figure for Tualatin. He's the second longest tenured TCC superintendent, and he was extremely creative with his budget. He actually had the very first nursery of any golf course in the area, so he was very forward-thinking. Right next to him is Millard Rosenblatt. I was talking with John Foe today about Millard. Yeah, he definitely deserves a talk. Millard is a Hall of Fame member of the Oregon. He has a Guinness Book of World Record of 44 years between his first and his last club championship. He won it 12 times. He was the captain of the Stanford golf team. And if he had decided that golf was really, truly his passion, he would have been even a better golfer than he was. But his heart and mind and soul was being a doctor and saving lives. And we're all so grateful for that. And one of the people that was very well taken care of when something happened to him was Bob McReynolds. Bob lived across the tracks, 12 years old, became a caddy here back in the 30s, and he was riding his vehicle and he got hit, and it wasn't his fault. The guy didn't have insurance. Dr. Miller took care of him, gave him some money, did everything he could, and it just warmed Bob's heart to no end that somebody that wasn't his family member, that was a member of Tualatin, took care of him. And so as he paid it forward in his life, he tried to be like Dr. Miller. And towards the end of his life, he became past president of the OGA, he was the historian of the OGA, and the last couple of years, he said, I'm going to do this project for Tualatin. And he spent countless hours resourcing information. And a lot of it that I hope most of you will see there, that was all Bob's work. So one of the big reasons that we're here tonight is the inspiration that Bob has for me. Because I saw how he put his efforts out there, and I just wanted to pay it forward, just like Dr. Miller would. So I'm going to this is a really special connection because I looked at Bob and saw what he was reading. I said, oh my gosh, Bob's got to be somebody important. And I said, Mike Klenz was there, and I said, do you know Bob? And Bob, and Mike goes, oh yeah, I mentored underneath. Oh, well, tell me about him. And then he said, what a wonderful person he is. And he said, well, is there any more information I can find? He goes, why don't you go to the OGA? I went to the OGA, and that's where I found all that stuff that had been hidden for 25 years, everybody. Can you believe that? All that work that he had did and never seen the day of light. So here we are. So now what we're going to do is going to bring Mike Klenz up here, and he's going to speak a little bit about his relationship with Bob, and having been a member here for a few years. We'll just call it that. All right, come on, Bob. Come on up. Or excuse me, Mike.
Well, Chris and I didn't didn't compare notes, and he just went through part of my talk already. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So, before we get started, can Fred Heaney stand up for a second? I've got a bone to pick with Chris. Chris, I told you not to invite this guy. because when he was here, he won 7 club championships in 10 years. And I wanted to acknowledge that the room my little biography that you didn't read, you said you were going to. It would look a lot better if Fred hadn't been here, so I kind of tricky. Anyway, Chris asked me to talk a little bit about Bob McReynolds, because I didn't know him. It's a small piece of Tualatin, but not a small piece, but it's a kind of a hidden, unique piece of Tualatin history that a lot of people might not know about. Bob was born and raised in a farmhouse across from the 12th hole, And when he was, as Chris already mentioned, some of this is redundant, but I'll try not to say the same stuff. When Bob was 12 years old, he came over and started caddying. And he was one of those guys with a real gregarious personality, and the members warmed up to him immediately. And before too long, he had some youth clubs and was playing the courts pretty much whenever he wanted to at the age of 12. This was 1932. Bob was kind of a natural, and maybe it was because of his Scottish and Irish surname, McReynolds, but he was kind of a natural because by the time he was 18 years old, he set the new course record of Tualatin, shooting a 66. This was in 1938. That round kind of springboarded him to he started playing in a lot of the regional and local events in the greater Portland area, and he was actually quite a phenom. I won't, in the interest of time, I won't read off all the different tournaments he won, but he was making quite a name for himself. It was pretty much a big deal. Give you an idea, I was at the OGA archives looking up some information on Bob. There was an article that the Oregon Journal newspaper did on Bob, and it was a lot of the copy on the newspaper was faded, and they couldn't read what tournament it was. But it was at a tournament in Broadmoor. Back nine, Bob shot 28 8 under par to seal the deal. So that gives you an idea of the guy, gives you an idea what kind of player he was and what kind of game he had. For those of you who are keeping track of the timeline here, I want you to back up. Bob had such a good career for 2 years, from 1938 to 1940. The Tualatin Country Club board of directors decided to give Bob an honorary lifetime membership of the club. And you mentioned how grateful he was to the club for all they did for him and his family. Bob's mom worked with the club as in the kitchen and also as a waitress. And the club helped the family out financially over the years in many different ways. But so now we're in 1940. Does anybody guess where I'm going with the story? What happens next? World War II. Yeah, so Bob is a hotshot golfer, but he goes to, he's involved in World War II. I have a lot of gory details about the battle in Palau Island, where he got injured. But I'll spare you all the gory details. The short story is Bob was badly injured. He ended up having several surgeries on his back, both legs, and his right arm, and he was in the hospital for 13 months. And so when he came back to Oregon, obviously his golf game wasn't what it used to be, but he was determined to try to be somewhat competitive, and he fabricated a golf swing to accommodate his injuries, and was still able to, for example, what he was able to, it took him several years, but what he was able to accomplish was 1952 and 53, he made it to the finals of the Oregon Am. 1953, he played in the Morse Cup and the Hudson Cup, and in 1958, he qualified for the U.S. Amateur. Not the level of golf that he had before the war, but still pretty commendable. As Chris alluded to, when I met Bob in 1979, I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know who Bob was at all, but I got to work as a printing salesman at a company where Bob was also in sales, and he and I met, and of course we hit it off because of our Tualatin connection. Even though we had a 31-year age difference, we got pretty close. Bob wasn't playing much golf in those days, but he was still passionate about the game, and he wanted to. They didn't call it this back then, but he didn't know what he was doing, but he was actually playing it forward, like he mentioned, Chris. And he spent a lot of time going to different clubs in the area, private and public clubs, and talking to the old timers and going through all their files and compiling a record of history, of Oregon golf history. He wanted to make sure that all the records were intact for the club and they're up to speed. So he has copious notes of all the who the club managers were, the board presidents, the GMs, the superintendents, the club champions of all the clubs in the area, not just the private ones, but the public ones too. And the OGA was so, thanks, Fred.
Get off.
I had to give you a bad time, maybe.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I was sitting on
When Bob's body of work was it consisted of several 3-ring binders and lots of file folders of the golf history. He kind of appointed himself unofficial golf historian for Oregon. And one of the things that's really evident when you go to the Bob McReynolds Library in the OJ office is that his first love was Tualatin Country Club. He appreciated the support that Tualatin gave to him and his family, and it really comes through in the materials that are down there at the OJ office. I was proud to know Bob. He was a heck of a guy, but I'm even prouder to be part of the club that helped Bob become successful and establish the legacy that he did. So I left off a lot of stuff, I think, for 2 reasons. One is I panicked up here. Secondly, Chris told me, when I told him yesterday I had this down to about 9 minutes, he says, can you cut it in half? And, it's not easy to do because Bob's one of those guys you can spend a whole evening talking about. Anyway, that's all I got for now.
An hour and a half with John today. We ran around the golf course. He shared with me about the design of the course, the history here. Oh my gosh, it was like the highlight of highlights for me personally to spend time with John. He was so open and honest with everything. I could see he really does care about this place and the people here too. So here we go. We're gonna start with the video.
In recent decades, Tualatin Country Club has adeptly navigated the changing landscape of golf and club management by merging tradition with innovation, ensuring its ongoing relevance and competitiveness. The club's significant renovation in the 1990s, spearheaded by architects Bob Cupp and John Fote, revitalized both the course and clubhouse, reflecting a commitment to environmental stewardship and blending aesthetic enhancements with a reinvigorated ethos. This project was pivotal, emphasizing conservation efforts and introducing advanced training facilities to cater to a changing member demographic, particularly younger golfers. John Fote, the first Oregonian U.S. amateur champion and a pivotal figure in this transformation, exemplified this blend of respect for golfing traditions with a progressive approach to club development. His architectural expertise not only modernized the course, but also solidified Tualatin's legacy as a club that respects its heritage while embracing contemporary needs. Through these efforts, Tualatin Country Club has established itself as a model of how to sustainably evolve, ensuring its place as a premier golfing destination that honors its past while looking to the future.
I'm going to do a little trivia here. Players who have won a U.S. Amateur and back-to-back weeks on the PGA Tour. Let's see who might be on that list. Anybody have any guesses? Victor Hovland, Bryson DeChambeau, Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer. Any of those names ring a bell? All right. Got one more name. John Fote. So John's getting a little taste of Chris Myrvold right now, and I like to do a little bit of research, and he has never seen this before. I sent this to him, he was kind of surprised. Got another little surprise. Here we go. Players who have won the Trans-Miss big time event, U.S. Amateur, undefeated in Walker Cups, back-to-back PGA Tour events. Let's see who the names might be there. Jack Nicklaus. Okay, let's see, what other name might be there? John Fote? That's it? Oh my God. All right. And it just so happened, that's his way, you know, he's just playing golf and he's talking about, well, he's playing with Jack. You know, of course it happens to all of us, right? We're just playing golf with Jack Nicklaus. And so he says, yeah, I'm kind of interested in some designing. And so Jack says, well, you know, I got my buddy Bob Cup, he's going to go out on his own and maybe you should get connected. So, kind of a little eerie there to see two names right next to each other, and accomplishments in their playing career, both designers of golf. So, I've got something else up my sleeve here, John. Here we go.
This was a year when the USGA was the host for another playing of the Water Cup, the granddaddy of all international competition, matching a team from the British Isles against an American team. The series has been lopsided in our favor, yet the event never loses its appeal. In 1977, it was played at the Shinnecock Hills Golf Club in Long Island, Southampton. The Americans, as expected, won handily by a team score of 16-8. Among the winners for the American side, John Foth, who closed out one of his matches on the 17th hole. Right. And that should give you some idea of how important the Water Cup is to these fine amateur players. This is the beautiful Halimar trophy that goes to the winner of the U.S. Amateur Championship. He keeps it only for a year. John Foth, who hails from Portland, Oregon. Well, Foth had a very good day. Fischesser didn't. Foth was 6 holes up after the morning round. Here he is on the 9th hole in the afternoon. A birdie to go 8 up. Man. Well, the end came on the 28th hole. John Foth, by 9 and 8, the champion and successor to players like Jones and Nicklaus, Palmer and Littler.
19-yard par 4. And a great putt to get Foth at 19 under his second shot. Should John birdie 18, he would catch Chip Beck at 20 under. There it is. And he looks like he might do just that.
He just might do that. It looks like he has about a 3.5, 4 footer.
But the nation will watch and long remember the final hour duel between the young lion and the golden bear. For this, the 65th annual PGA Championship. Another man turned in the most consistent round of the day. John Foth finished with 11 consecutive pars and waited to see where that would put him.
Meanwhile, just ahead, McGowan's former teammate at Brigham Young University, John Foth, is playing consistent, and for him, even emotional golf. There's a good putt, John. You can see how this tournament does things to people.
I'd say that Tiger Woods learned a few things about fist pumping. All right, so I believe it's time now to have John come up and speak. And I'm just going to leave the floor and let him chat about his experiences at Tualatin. Come on up.
Thank you. I have to say it's so much fun to be back here at Tualatin. We joined when I was 12 years old. My brother and I remember growing up at Tualatin Country Club. That was a long, long time ago. I remember many, many years ago I had the opportunity to, when I went down to the Trans-Miss to play, there was a guy here in town who used to represent the Ben Hogan Company. And he he said, would you like to meet Ben Hogan when you're down there? Well, I said, well, of course I would. You know, so it was like 1977, and I had managed to, we were playing at Midland Country Club, and I managed to win my last match against Scott Simpson, like 3-1, and I thought I was a pretty special person. And so I walked into, I went the next day, I had the opportunity to meet Ben Hogan. I remember walking into his office, and I was completely speechless. He just had that aura about him that just didn't allow you to, well, it just put you in your place. I just felt like I was about that tall. He's sitting behind the desk, and he's got a gray suit, he's got glasses on, and he's looking at something, and he looks up at me, and he says, John, there's just one thing I gotta tell you. He says, don't ever get old. Obviously, I did not listen to him. When I look at that, I look like a baby there. I think my wife would probably say, oh my gosh, who the heck is that? You know, but I'm so grateful for all the experiences that I had growing up at Tualatin Country Club, and all of but people don't really, they watch these tournaments that you had a chance to win and play in different parts of the world. What you don't realize is all the failures you had. Because I remember losing a lot of matches. Like, I was 6-up in the Oregon Junior at Waverly Country Club, and I managed to lose on the last hole. And I don't think I was the most dejected I have ever been in my life. And I remember sitting at lunch, and my wife probably remembers this, and I was kind of in a zone. It was it was the finals. And back then, the USGA championship, it was 36 holes like the last 3 days. And I'm sitting there, and we're at Aeronomic Country Club, and I have a couple people talking to me, and honestly, I can't even remember anything they were saying or anything. What was going through my mind at that time was, do you remember when you lost? You were six up, and you know, all those experiences that go into that. And I owe a lot to Tualatin Country Club, because there was a lot of times that that I played golf here, and anybody that knows me know that I used to practice on the golf course here. And fortunately, a lot of those people are not here anymore because they'd like to have killed me, but I used to stand on the other side where there's a lake on 18, and used to hit 3-wood straight up the middle of the fairway on 18. If you could imagine doing that today. I used to stand on the tee on one and hit about 50 drivers off of there, because I wanted to hone my driver. And so fortunately, for me, they didn't kick me out. I'm technically still a member here at Tualatin Country Club after all these years. But I am so grateful. There's too many people here, so many of my old friends and that I have known for so many years. The Fred Haney's, my brother, is here. Bruce Stewart and I used to spend all day here playing golf, and then we would putt, and it is true, we used to putt on the putting green for probably 2 hours at a time, having games and things like that. And Bruce caddied for me when I managed to get my tour card down at a place called Waterwood National. It's such a great course, they've since closed it. If you can believe that. And Bruce, you remember that. I remember I was leading the qualifying, and I got to what was, I think, the 14th hole, if you remember that, par 3. It was an island green that I had to hit a 3-wood to. It was water all the way around it. And you know, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh my God, you'd be the first guy leading it and not get your card because you made a 10 here or something. I'll never forget that, Stu. You probably don't forget either. Of all the things I did, I managed to hit a 3-wood, and it just trickled off the edge of the green, and I chipped in for a 2. I probably picked up 4 shots on the field on that particular hole. That was when I realized I was going to make it. And Bruce caddied for me when I won the Anheuser-Busch Classic, one of the 2 tournaments I won on the PGA Tour. And that was really, really fun. I had some injuries where I stopped playing. And yes, we did not make the kind of money that they do today. I won 2 tournaments on the PGA Tour for a total of $81,000. Today, that would be about $3 million. Everybody says, yeah, but expenses were more. I said, they weren't that much more. They weren't. Yeah, maybe a room back then was $70 a night. Maybe now it's $150, but I would be glad to pay the $150 and make $3 million. But it was Tualatin Country Club. It feels like coming home here. I look back at, I stood in this room so many years ago, and I think people would like to have killed me when we talked about trying to expand the golf course onto the new 7th and 8th holes, just to try to get a little more land. If you remember, the 8th hole was a nice par 3. Used to play 7 down in the corner, then you had to walk all the way back and played the 9th hole, which was about 260 up the hill to where the golf shop is now. And I'm so glad we made that change, and I'm so glad we persevered through that. Fred, you remember some of that old golf hole. I mean, it was, there's a lot of great players that came through here, by the way. I mean, I learned from a lot. I caddied for Dave Klenz when he won the Oregon Amateur here. And I got a first-hand look at that. That was really fun. I think I was 15 years old then. And he actually let me caddy for him, which was fun. I think he gave me 24 golf balls for 6 rounds, which was pretty good. Not bad at all. But yeah, we stood here, and I'm glad we did the things that we did to at least get the golf course to where the scale and the size of it's good. And I think it plays a little better for the members. I see some wonderful improvements that have been made here. I'm really, really glad. And I think there's several people here, David Weiner, Fred, my brother, of course, Stu, and Randy Schultz. We took some serious arrows during that time period. People did want to kill us for doing it, but I think we did the right thing. There's nothing more gratifying in the world than when somebody comes up and says to you, I redid a course up in Toronto recently, or a couple of years ago. It's an old Donald Ross golf course, and I took out a bunch of bunkers that the members had put in over years, and it's a wonderful old downtown club. And it had probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. I stepped outside one day, and I was just looking around the golf course, and one of the members came over to me and he said, John, I just want you to know that I voted totally against everything you wanted to do here. He said, I thought you were nuts. He said, but I just want you to know, you were right. I am so glad you didn't listen to me and you did what you did. That's pretty gratifying, I think, for any golf course designer to be able to hear that from someone. I could stand up here and tell stories all day long about the history of Tualatin Country Club, and I used to caddy. Bruce and I both went for Dr. Rosenblatt. I knew so many of the people, they're gone now, but they had a tremendous impression on me. I was laughing. I said, look down at the past presidents. One of them we bought my wife's wedding ring from. I think it was $400. That seemed like $40,000 back then. He gave me a deal on it, thankfully, and I could afford it. And I remember probably one of the funniest things that ever happened to me at Tualatin Country Club is back in the old days. My wife and I have been married for almost 49 years now. Which is remarkable. She uses to sit next to me now. But back then, she really liked me. And on one of the Thursdays, on Men's Day, she decided she was going to visit me. So she took the bus out here. As she's walking in, I thought, oh my God, it's Men's Day. There's no women on the golf course. She's cruising right on. Well, she didn't realize that, so I quickly went and grabbed her before somebody got mad at both of us. But that was, I just have a tremendous amount of stories of things. I won't share a lot of them with you. Some of them can't be shared with you, obviously. But I do remember, and I was telling Chris, one of the highlights of my young life being able to play golf here was when I broke 70. I think I shot 69. I can't remember how old I was. I think I was 14 or something like that. And Harold West was the golf pro then, and I know nobody knows him, but he was a great old golf professional. And he came out and shook my hand and congratulated me, and he gave me a X'd out Billy Casper golf ball. And as a 14-year-old, that is really pretty cool. You know what I mean? It's not like now where you just get dozens and dozens of golf balls for free and everything else. But I am so glad I have had the opportunity to be here. My dad was president of the club a long time ago. I knew a lot of the presidents that were here. I caddied for a good portion of them. And as a 12 to 15-year-old, I caddied here a lot till I got to be a reasonably good player. But there's a lot of people here, and Fred remembers some of these names that played golf in the Northwest, like the Pat Fitzsimons. There was a guy here that I played with when I was young. His name is Mike Spang. A lot of you probably don't remember him, but he was quite a good player. And I used to follow him around when I was young and play golf with him. And Dave Klenz was another one that I really liked. There was a lot of people that came through Tualatin Country Club, more than I could even name to you. But as you get older, you realize your mortality, and you realize that the picture that you see up there, it's long gone. And I just remember one of the members, I think it was Mr. Schwartz or somebody, came up to me and I said, you know, how are you doing, Mr. Schwartz? And we're getting ready to go. He says, John, he says, it's a good day. I'm on this side of the grass. And that's kind of the way I feel these days. Even though I love working and doing that stuff, as I have said before, you know, I know I'm on the back nine of my life. I just hope I'm not on the 18th tee.
John, thank you very much. That was amazing. All right, so we're gonna go to additional video.
Beyond its lush fairways and challenging greens, Tualatin Country Club evolved into a social nucleus, renowned for its unwavering commitment to fostering inclusivity and camaraderie among its members. This commitment was vividly illustrated when the club welcomed the Leisure Hour Club, an African-American golf league, to host their annual tournament, breaking new ground in a time when racial exclusions were commonplace in private clubs. Tualatin's vibrant social scene was marked by a plethora of events that catered to the diverse interests of its membership. These gatherings were not just social events, they were a testament to the club's foundational belief in the power of community, offering a sanctuary where lasting friendships were formed, and every member felt a sense of belonging. The club's proactive approach to social inclusivity set a benchmark for private clubs, championing a culture of openness and mutual respect.
All right, so everybody, one of the very first videos, it said that there's always been a Roscoe Nelson as a member of Tualatin, and like I've said, I've said it before, and it bears repeating how much of an influence Roscoe and his family made to this club, and specifically the passion that he had for the community at large. I spent a lot of time with Roscoe recently, and got to be at the synagogue, and really, get a feel for the love that is there. It's just an amazing experience, and being with Roscoe, it just makes you feel like, just like a father or a brother, or I'm so grateful for my time with him. So, anyways, I want to give the mic to Roscoe, and before I do that, one real quick thing is the connection between John Fote and Roscoe. So, John Fote's father convinced Roscoe III, John Fote III, Roscoe III, to go on the board, and Roscoe, they loved each other, and that was a really important point. There was a time when there was a mortgage, and it was a long ways away from getting paid off, and when Roscoe finally got to the presidency, it got paid off. And he hired a magician to throw the piece of paper up in the air, and it was a great celebration. So, anyways, a lot more stories to come. Roscoe, come on up. And,
Thank you. This is like my home. It always has been. I don't really know what stories to tell you guys, but I'll try to come up with a couple. So just so you know, top picture there was my dad. The one below is my grandpa. And how this place started was my grandpa, who came from Richmond, Virginia to Portland, Oregon, God alone knows why, in around the year 1900, started a law firm that is still going to this day. And he, a law firm that my father left when I was born, and then I joined my dad and we formed the firm that I now have and run. But my grandpa was an avid golfer. I played his golf course in Richmond a number of times, not with him, because my grandpa, I'm old, no doubt about it, but I'm not old enough to have known him. I sure knew his son, my dad, but I played his course in Richmond, and it was a Jewish club. When he came to Portland, Oregon, there was only one other golf club. Anybody want to take a guess? Yeah, and guess what they didn't allow? So he and his friends came out here, and you've heard from Chris what they did and how they went about it, and I absolutely agreed with all the things they said. And it was a collective thing. How my grandpa knew what he knew about golf courses and how to get people motivated to build a place like this, I guess is a credit to who he was. And I, again, didn't know him. I wish I had. When I was growing up, I felt like I did because people would talk to me about him a lot. And his wife, my grandmother, was living in the house that I grew up in. When my mother, later on, got ready to sell the house after my father passed, among the things that were there was in the basement, this old desk that had normal wood color like this. It was blacker than the ace of spades because it was right next to the furnace. And so I started rummaging. I decided I wanted that desk, and I was going to refinish it. So I go through the drawers, and here's my grandpa's original file on Tualatin. And so I gave it to the club, and Chris has been using it, among other things, as his resource for his writings. And I will tell you unequivocally, this is the best writer I know. So I'm going to tell you one more story. I remember so well coming out here. It was a different place. I mean, there was no I-5 to come here. The way you got here, at least from my house, was Schultz Ferry to Taylor's Ferry to Boone's Ferry to here. So a big political issue of the day was, what are the city limits of Portland? And they were changing. So my dad would invite me to come play golf with himself and my other grandfather, my mother's father, and we'd come out here the only way you could come on those streets I just mentioned. And when my dad got to the city limits, he'd pull over and let me drive his 1956 Chrysler Imperial from where he stopped to the club. And if you don't think that's an incentive to come play golf, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, Roscoe is being very humble, but it's definitely, he's done quite a bit for this club behind the scenes still to today, and A lot of you are members or know members that are here because of him. So, there we go.
As Tualatin Country Club stands on the cusp of its next century, it envisions a future where tradition and innovation converge to create an unparalleled golfing and social experience. The club is poised to embark on new projects that embrace technological advancements in golf, further environmental sustainability efforts, and expand its community outreach.
All right, well, final words. First of all, thanks everybody for being here. Very humbled with all the outpouring of nice comments about what I'm doing, and just warmed my heart. So I just want to say thanks, and Tualatin is a place that will continue on, hopefully for the next 112 years, and it will be reminded of its founders and its vision of being a top country club in the Northwest, which I believe it has gotten there. All right, everybody, have an enjoyable, and don't forget we have some desserts available, some coffee. You can mill around and talk to myself or John or anybody else. So thank you, everybody.